The shocking prophecies of the Bible, what they reveal about the end of days. Few knew what truly happened that night. The air was thick with tension, deep in the heart of Jerusalem. In the shadows, whispers danced like flames, igniting curiosity and fear. A long-forgotten prophecy stirred within the ancient scrolls. It spoke of darkness descending, of calamities unstoppable. Could this be just a tale told to frighten children? Or was it a warning buried beneath layers of time? The moon hung low, casting an eerie glow on the cobbled streets, where echoes of the past lingered. It was a time when the people looked to the skies, desperate for signs. The prophets had foretold fire and brimstone, a great reckoning to come. But among them stood one man, a shepherd of hope. His name was Amos, and heaven had heavy burdens on him that night. With trembling hands, he held the stone tablet, its surface etched with commandments that seemed to shimmer with light. He could feel the weight of Edom destiny pulling him forward. His heart raced as visions danced in his mind. He saw figures of unimaginable wrath swirling clouds, regions consumed by flame, and voices of despair calling out in anguish. The sky cracked like thunder, and with every heartbeat, the ground beneath him trembled. In the distance, a group of townsfolk lingered, their faces pale with dread. They muttered amongst themselves, visions of the unspeakable flooding their thoughts. "What if it's true?" one gasped, eyes wide with terror. "What if the end is upon us?" Fear gripped them all. The fear of the unknown, the fear of what tomorrow might bring. The old tales, once dismissed as folklore, now echoed louder than the raging winds. Would this be their fate? A sudden silence enveloped the crowd, punctuated only by a child's whimper. Eyes darted around, searching for solace, but all fell to shadows. Amos closed his eyes, inhaling deeply. A fiery determination sparked within him. Bundled in the fear around him, he clutched the tablet tighter. What can be done? He thought. Is there a way to fend off this calamity? But even as he pondered, a gnawing doubt echoed back. Maybe it was too late. Maybe they had crossed the line drawn by the divine. The earth beneath his feet rumbled ominously, a reminder of the power held by the heavens. And the skies stirred, dark clouds swirling above. What did it all mean? The sweat trickled down his brow as the crowd gasped in unison, glancing up, hearts pounding. Time felt suspended, filled with a pulse of dread. Was there a flicker of hope amidst this darkness? He inhaled again, deeply this time, as a strange warmth filled his chest. Could there be some sort of salvation awaiting them? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Amos stood before the gathered townsfolk, their faces reflecting a memory of brighter days now overshadowed by uncertainty. He could feel their hope waning like the dying embers of a fire, and he knew this was a moment to illuminate the darkness with truth, however daunting it might be. Drawing in a deep breath of the cool night air, he cleared his throat, trying to anchor himself amid the rising chaos. People of Jerusalem, his voice rang out through the stillness, firm yet trembling. I do not stand before you to proclaim doom, but to remind you of our covenant with the Most High. We are not without agency, our actions shape the path ahead. The murmurs persisted, but he pressed on. Listen. The scrolls speak not solely of judgment but of mercy, of a chance to return to the ways of righteousness. Did not our forefathers call upon the divine in their times of trouble? Could we not see a flicker of grace if we sought it earnestly? Skepticism danced in the eyes of the townsfolk. But are we worthy of his mercy? An elder shouted, struggling against the tide of despair. Are we not made in his image? Amos countered, each of us has the potential to awaken the spirit of repentance within. We can tend to our own hearts, mend our ways, and seek forgiveness. A wave of uncertainty washed over the crowd as they began to shift uneasily. Within their depths, some hearts stirred. They had been yearning for hope, though fear had chained them. But would it be enough? In that moment, the clouds above began to swirl more tumultuously, flashing with an ominous glow. The people flinched as an echoing voice thundered from the heavens, a sound that shook the very stones beneath their feet. "Prepare the way. A messenger is coming." Amos' heart raced in anticipation. Could this messenger be a herald of hope or destruction? He thought, wrestling with the weight of the visions he had earlier witnessed. He turned his gaze to the sky, where swirling shadows danced playfully against the moonlight, and he felt a strange affinity with those clouds. Perhaps, like a storm, there was something transformative on the horizon. "Gather at the temple," he urged, raising his hand, "let us seek guidance together. Let our prayers ascend to the heavens." He felt an urge to rally them, to unite in their shared despair but also in their yearning for redemption. As the townsfolk hesitated, torn between fear and the desire to believe in hope, Amos noticed a figure approaching from the outskirts. Cloaked in simplicity, she carried an air of tranquility amidst the chaos. It was Miriam, the wise woman of their village, known for her deep connection to the divine. Without speaking, she stepped forward, her presence calming the crowds. "Let the hearts of the faithful seek the light. Let us not forget the power of humility during dark times," she said softly, her voice cutting through the thunder. Her calm demeanor was a source of inspiration, a salve to the open wounds the crowd shared. "Isn't it true," Miriam continued, "that the divine often acts when we least expect it? When we are fragmented and lost, it is in that very moment that the possibility for a new beginning can emerge." As her words settled over the gathering like a gentle cloak, the tension in the air seemed to shift. Yet despite the flicker of hope igniting in their hearts, an unsettling question lingered. Would this mysterious messenger bring the salvation they desperately craved, or would it unveil something unforeseen, deepening their trials instead? Each soul stood suspended, torn between what they feared and what they hoped. What came next would break or bind them. Could they muster the courage to truly seek, or would they allow despair to envelop them once more? With the storm gathering and hope swirling around them, the silence grew heavy with unanswered questions. What awaited them on the morrow? The skies rumbled softly, as if the heavens themselves deliberated on the fate of the assembly. Amos could feel the weight of their collective anticipation, a tapestry of longing woven with threads of fear and faith. Each heartbeat echoed the murmur of uncertainty, blending the sounds of nature with the inner turmoil of every soul present. As night deepened, Miriam gestured for calm amidst the turbulence. In times like these, she began with a gentle reassurance, we must remember the words of our ancestors, those who walked with the divine and faced the tumultuous storms of their days. She paused, her gaze holding the assembly captive. They did not abandon their trust in the promises made to them. Instead, they approached the throne of grace with their hearts contrite and open. The crowd listened, some nodding as buried memories of faith began to stir. "Do you recall the story of Jonah?" she continued, her voice rising just enough to pierce the blanket of uncertainty. A reluctant messenger, he fled from his calling, and yet, the divine sought him amidst the storm, turning despair into a beacon of hope for an entire city. Perhaps we too have a chance to be transformed through our trials. A hushed reverence enveloped the crowd, the name of Jonah painting familiar images of a reluctant prophet and the great fish that bore him back to purpose. Could it be that in their own flight from faith and righteousness, there lay an opportunity for redemption? The question lingered, heavy and charged in the air. Amos felt the stirrings of a deeper truth beneath the surface. "Miriam," he interjected, "if we are to prepare for this messenger, then we must delve into what makes us truly worthy of his arrival. What must we renounce? What must we embrace? The answer lies not only in our voices but within the depths of our very souls." A murmur ran through the assembly. Some clung to their fears like tattered blankets, while others dared to open their hearts, hoping to find something worthwhile hidden beneath layers of despair. What if the messenger reveals parts of ourselves we wish to keep buried? Someone called out, doubt threading through their words. Miriam nodded knowingly, but is it not the very unveiling of our darkness that allows the light to filter through? The divine does not seek out perfection, it seeks sincerity. In our vulnerability lies both a challenge and a promise of a life renewed, a life redeemed. As she spoke, Amos felt the winds shift once more, swirling around the assembly like a breath of fresh air. He lifted his hands, grasping for the hearts of the townsfolk. Let us cast aside our fears. If we are indeed to meet this messenger, we must open ourselves to the possibility that the unveiling may show us not just our faults, but the boundless love that the Most High has for each one of us. The murmurs quieted, their expressions mingling between trepidation and hope. From the depths of the crowd, an elder raised a shaking hand. But tell us, Amos, how do we begin this journey? How do we prepare for what lies ahead? With a deep breath, Amos answered, we must start within. Sit with yourself tonight, seek the quiet place where the Spirit speaks. There, in the silence, ask the questions that tremble on your lips, and listen. For in the heart stillness, the pathway to understanding will often unfold. As they began to disperse towards their homes, a flicker of hope ignited within. They moved, still uncertain but willing to seek. Each step bore the weight of unresolved questions and tentative possibilities. The storm persisted, but with it came whispers of a transformative journey. What if the messenger, when he arrives, prompted questions they were not prepared to face? Would they find the courage to embrace the truth unveiled? Or would they retreat back into the shadows, leaving the opportunity for renewal unclaimed? The night thrummed with a sense of wonder, as each soul pondered deeper truths that awaited them on the morrow. What revelations would dawn with the rising sun? The dawn broke slowly over the horizon, streaming warm light across the fields as if nature itself held its breath, anticipating what the day might unveil. Amos woke with an unsettling mixture of hope and dread swirling in his heart. The assembly from the night before played in his mind like a vivid dream that lingered long after waking. The promises, the fears, and especially the resolve to look deep within themselves. As he stepped outside, the air felt different, charged with an electric energy that made the hair on the nape of his neck stand on end. Birds flitted from branch to branch, their songs echoing a sense of expectancy, while the vibrant colors of dawn whispered of renewal. Yet, the weight of what lay ahead pressed heavily on his spirit. What truth was the messenger to unveil? And were they truly ready to face it? Weeks passed as the townsfolk engaged in the internal journey Amos had proposed. Many took to the hills for solitude, while others sought the company of trusted friends, sharing confessions under the starlit sky. The townspeople became embroiled in conversations of deep significance, unveiling their fears, their regrets, and their hopes. They discussed not only their personal transgressions but also the collective weight of worry they bore for their families and their future. One afternoon, a young woman named Leah approached Amos. Her face bore lines of age beyond her years, but her eyes sparkled with sincerity. Amos, I have come to realize something, she began, her voice quaking slightly as she spoke. As I have delved into my heart, I have found remnants of bitterness, old grudges that cling like ivy on a neglected wall. In seeking to confront my own shadows, I am now terrified. What if I unearth more than I can bear? Amos felt a pang of recognition. Leah's struggle was a reminder that vulnerability often brings with it a tide of emotions that can feel insurmountable. Ah, Leah, he said gently, it is the way of the Spirit to challenge us. In our wrestling with these shadows, the light does not only expose our weaknesses, it also offers the soothing balm of healing. Embrace that discomfort as a sign you are being reshaped, rather than broken. The truth in his own words surprised him. Was this what the impending messenger had come to reveal, the opportunity for restoration through honesty? The days turned into a rhythm of prayer and introspection, mutual encouragement weaving its way through each gathering. New stories of redemption surfaced, painting a landscape of hope, yet the darkness of their baggage lingered like shadows, not yet dispelled by the light. Then one evening, amidst the lingering scents of blooming jasmine, Miriam called the town together once more. The hushed murmurs began. It seemed as though the very air was pregnant with unvoiced anticipation. "Friends," she began, her voice steady but infused with urgency, "the messenger is said to arrive at dusk. We stand on the precipice of revelation, and I implore each of you as you await his coming, do not shy away from the truths that emerge. Instead, welcome them like cherished visitors." Amos studied the faces in the crowd. He saw in their eyes a mixture of awe and anxiety. They were weathered souls searching for a glimpse of the divine in the midst of their fears. Deep down, he wondered if they had truly prepared for the possibility of transformation. Could they embrace the reality that their collective past rife with regrets and desires could shape a brighter future? As the sun dipped lower on the horizon, the shadows deepened, drawing the townsfolk closer together, their hearts beating against the drum of their uncertainty. Who would the messenger be? What would he speak? The questions resonated among them, each heartbeat echoing louder than the last. With twilight painting the sky in shades of lavender and gold, the atmosphere thickened with expectations. Would they indeed open their hearts wide enough to let in what felt unthinkable? Or would they cower behind the walls they had built, settling for the familiar discomfort of the known rather? Then the freeing chaos of discovery, as the sun finally vanished, leaving only the soft glow of stars behind, Amos whispered a prayer for illumination. What awaited them on this night of revelation? Would they find truth in their vulnerability, or would the prospect of awakening prove too fierce for their weary souls? The questions lingered in the cool night air, agonizingly unresolved, as they prepared to greet the messenger, a harbinger of both challenge and grace. As the stars twinkled above, the atmosphere vibrated with that peculiar mix of fear and hope. The townsfolk waited, their breaths mingling in the stillness of the night, while whispers flickered through the crowd like firelight. Amos felt his heart race in harmony with theirs, all wondering if the world as they knew it was on the cusp of transformation. Suddenly, a rustling sound arose from the shadows, drawing the townspeople's attention. A figure emerged, draped in a simple robe that brushed the ground, and on his head, a hood that cloaked his face in mystery. There was a palpable shift in energy around him, as those assembled stood shifting from foot to foot, many raising their hands instinctively in reverence or protection. "Fear not," the man spoke, his voice carrying a melody that seemed to cradle their anxiety. "I have been sent with words for this town, words that may seem shocking, yet they are steeped in the love that desires your good." Miriam stepped forward, her voice quaking but determined. "Who are you, stranger? What is the message you bear that sends ripples of dread through our hearts?" "I am a voice from beyond your realm, sent to guide, but also to confront," he replied, lowering his hood to reveal a countenance that radiated kindness yet bore the gravity of truth. "In recent weeks, you have turned your eyes inward, and that journey has birthed a readiness. But to embrace the truth that awaits, you must be free of the burdens that restrict your spirit." At this, Leah gasped softly, feeling the weight of his words as if they were spoken directly into the frayed corners of her heart. "What must we do?" she implored, seeking both clarity and strength. The messenger raised his hands, and the atmosphere began to crackle with energy. "Each of you must bring forth your shadows into the light. Secrets buried in the depths of your souls must be unearthed. In doing so, you will liberate the shackles that bind not only yourselves but also this entire community." A murmur rippled through the crowd, a mix of apprehension and curiosity. Amos felt a stirring within him, something akin to the longing for freedom yet tangled with fear. The messenger continued, "For every unspoken truth harbored weighs upon your spirit. It distances you from one another and diminishes your capacity to love. In the surrendering of these burdens, you allow the grace of forgiveness to wash over you." "But," Amos interjected cautiously, "what if the truths we reveal tear us apart? What if the light exposes wounds we are too afraid to heal?" "Ah." The messenger placed his hand on his heart. "With every revelation comes a choice to either withdraw in fear or step forward in courage. Embrace this moment, let honesty be the lantern that guides you through the darkened paths you fear to tread." The townsfolk exchanged uneasy glances. Would they be strong enough to confront their community's discomfort? Would they step into the glare of vulnerability, risking the harmony they had fought so hard to maintain? As the messenger continued to speak, Amos felt within himself a flicker of resolve. It felt small against the backdrop of the impending change, but it was there nonetheless, like a spark beneath the ash. He looked around at the faces illuminated by the dim light of the stars, seeing in them flashes of determination mixed with trepidation. How do we begin? Leah's voice rose once more, keen with urgency, her heart bared and exposed by the messenger's words. Gather your truths, he replied simply, big or small, known or hidden. This assembly shall be your sanctuary and altar where you lay down your burdens. The act of uttering those words will begin your healing. But before the messenger could finish, a crack of thunder rolled in the distance, resonating in the hearts of all present. The sky seemed to ripple with energy, reflecting the turmoil and promise encapsulated in that very moment. The winds picked up, swirling, and for an instant, it felt as though the heavens themselves were poised to respond. Tension filled the air, the townsfolk standing on the brink of something monumental. What would happen if they dared to bare their souls? Would they be able to face the consequences of the truths they had kept hidden? Or would the weight of their fears compel them to turn back into safety? As the stars overhead flickered with anticipation, Amos wondered, could they trust the process of unearthing their shadows, allowing the light to bring healing instead of despair? And how would a community built on transparency be transformed in the end? The whisper of the night held promises unspoken, as the mystery of their collective journey loomed just ahead. As the echo of thunder drifted away, the atmosphere thickened with uncertainty and anticipation. The mysterious messenger stood amid the crowd, his presence both remarkable and unsettling. In that pregnant pause, a shared breath drew tightly through the townsfolk, each person wrestling internally with the notion of exposure. Gather your truths, the messenger repeated, his voice steady as the wind whipped playfully around him. You are at the threshold of transformation, each of you holds a thread that weaves the tapestry of your community. Will you unravel your fears in order to craft a new beginning? Miriam's heart raced as she looked into the eyes of her neighbors, recognizing the mirroring flickers of fear and resolve. She took a step forward, anchored by the call of vulnerability. I have always feared the judgment of others, she confessed, her voice wavering. At times, I have spoken ill of those I love, perhaps to mask my own insecurities. A flutter of gasps reverberated through the assembly, but it was immediately followed by a palpable stillness. Miriam's admission laid bare an underlying truth that resonated with many. Within moments, Leah found her voice, emboldened by Miriam's openness. I too harbor resentment, she admitted regretfully. There are times I wish I had the courage to voice my concerns instead of letting them fester inside. Slowly, one by one, others began to speak, narratives unfolding like delicate petals awakening in the dawn. Samuel, whose brow usually wore the weight of the world, articulated the fears that had kept him distant from the community he loved. Ruth shared her struggles with jealousy, a feeling that dimmed her own joy and the joy of those around her. Each confession carved a path toward deeper understanding and connection, but amid the shared truths, apprehensions loomed. The messenger's words hung above them like a dark cloud. Would this collective unveiling lead to freedom or to fractures within their tightly knit circle? Just as a young boy dared to speak his innocent words trembling on the cusp of honesty, a tumultuous storm within the sky unleashed torrents of rain. The droplets cascaded down, tapping against the earth like fingers urging forth deeper revelations. The moment felt charged, as though nature itself was calling for honesty. The messenger raised a hand to quiet the growing noise of the storm, a protective gesture that lifted above the tumult. Fear not, he called over the clamor of raindrops. Your truths, born in love, shall strengthen your bonds. What is shared in sincerity can never truly tear you apart, it only serves to deepen your roots. With hearts laden yet lightened from the weight of their shadows, the townspeople began to speak more fervently. Words fell like rain upon parched soil, nurtured by their honesty. As stories blossomed into dialogue, the collective breath of the crowd began to feel rhythmically aligned, a heartbeat in search of healing, and yet, with each admission, a shadow of doubt lurked at the margins of the gathering. The messenger gathered his words again, his expression a mix of compassion and caution. Every truth shared is an invitation, but it also demands a reckoning. Healing arrives hand in hand with accountability. The freedom you seek lies at the edge of responsibility for the emotions unchained. This night, Amos felt a shiver crawl up his spine. What would accountability look like amid their revelations? He caught Miriam's eye, there was hope entwined with trepidation, threading through the individual confessions. He understood now the process would not be easy, and yet perhaps the heart of their existence was wrapped within this messy complexity. As the rain continued to wash over them, sealing their words in the sacredness of the moment, they stood wrestling with the understanding that the real challenge had yet to unfold. Would they embrace the necessary transformations? Could they bloom amidst discomfort? The messenger's final words painted the air with new promise: trust that even in brokenness, it is in community you may find the strength to heal. Brokering an understanding beyond words yet spoken. And so, in that sacred intersection of vulnerability and revelation, the townspeople began to ponder deeply. In seeking healing for themselves, would they inadvertently reopen wounds or forge a new path towards unity? Did the rain mark the cleansing of their spirits or merely the beginning of a far more torrential storm? As the rain fell, each drop seemed to drench the very fabric of the community's collective soul. The air vibrated with unspoken questions, heavy in its tension, and the sky mirrored the inner turmoil of the townsfolk. The messenger stood tall, seemingly impervious to the storm, his eyes scanning the crowd as if seeking out the depths of their concerns. Miriam felt a stirring within her chest, mingling hope with a deep dread. What if, she whispered to herself, the price of our truths is greater than the fears we've carried? Are we prepared to bear the weight of each other's shadows? The thought settled like a stone in her heart, echoing the hesitance of others caught within their own reflections. As the messenger's silence permeated the air, another stepped forward, a man known for his wisdom yet burdened with the weight of past mistakes. Eli had spent years harboring regrets, believing that each confession would lead to a confrontation he was not ready to face. What does accountability look like? He asked, his voice steady yet laced with uncertainty. How do we ensure that our truths do not bring forth pain we have long buried? The messenger turned to Eli, acknowledging the question with a solemn nod. Accountability is both a shield and a compass, he replied softly. It protects what you hold dear and guides you through the valleys of remorse. The path is often steep, yet it starts with recognition and acceptance of each other's truths. With these words, a ripple of realization washed over the crowd. Perhaps they had mistaken accountability for punishment, associating it with fear rather than liberation. The rain persisted, drumming a quiet rhythm, as if signaling the importance of this moment. Leah, emboldened by Ella's inquiry, ventured further. What if we acknowledge our faults but do not know how to make amends? How do we navigate this path to healing? Seeking amends is an act of love, the messenger replied. It is an offering, a thread woven together with intention. It requires humility to listen and courage to act. But remember, understanding comes not only from the sound of your voices but also from the silence in which your hearts have space to reflect. His words hung in the air like fragrant incense, inviting contemplation. Samuel, who had been listening intently, felt a flicker of understanding ignite within him. Could it be that our discomfort with each other's truths stems from our inability to confront our own? He wondered aloud. The question, simple yet profound, lingered as the rain cascaded down like an unrelenting curtain. The townspeople glanced at one another, uncertainty mingled with curiosity. Perhaps it was time to reflect not just on shared burdens but also on personal struggles they preferred to cloak in darkness. Ruth added, is it possible that by facing ourselves, we can illuminate a path for others? Could our individual journeys toward accountability unite us in ways we never imagined? The messenger offered a knowing smile. You are beginning to see. The journey of healing is often best traveled together, bearing witness to each other's trials. As long as you approach one another with sincerity and grace, the pathway may yield the freedom you seek. A soft hush settled over the crowd, and they stood cocooned in a moment of collective introspection. Inside them stirred the compelling desire for change, tempered by the reality of confronting both community and self. But just as clarity beckoned, another clap of thunder resonated, reverberating overhead like an echo from the divine. With a sense of urgency, the messenger raised his voice once more. The storms of life are not without purpose, they reveal the strength hidden within your foundations. Will you find comfort in the chaos, or will fear take root once again? As the sky continued to unleash its steady downpour, a a question whispered through the minds of all gathered, in the intimacy of shared vulnerability, can we trust each other enough to forge a future built on accountability, or will the echoes of our past prevent us from moving forward together? As the rain persisted, creating ripples upon the earth, the air grew thick with both trepidation and expectancy. Miriam, with her heart still full of questions, felt an urge to speak, compelled by an unyielding spirit that rose within her. What if the storm is not merely a sign of our turmoil but a canvas, a chance for us to paint our desires for reconciliation anew? She glanced at the others, her eyes full of hope yet shadowed by uncertainty. The messenger regarded Miriam with a quiet intensity. Yes, child, storms cleanse the earth. They make way for growth, and so too do they shape the soul. It matters not if you are ready, it matters that you embrace the calling of this moment. Eli stepped forward again, emboldened by Miriam's words. And amidst this storm, how do we find the strength to speak our truths, especially when they are entangled with pain? How do we begin when the very act of speaking feels like inviting calamity? His voice trembled slightly, revealing the vulnerability beneath his calm facade. Sometimes, the messenger replied, the act of speaking the truth is like lighting a lantern in the dark. The flame may flicker, but it has the power to illuminate the path for many who dwell in shadows. It takes bravery to trust the light, but in that courage, community thrives. At that moment, a brilliant flash of lightning split the heavens, igniting the crowd with a momentary brightness. Ruth, shaken yet inspired, asked, how then can we transform this one moment of illumination into a lasting flame? How can we learn to share these truths without judgment, nurturing an environment where such vulnerability is met with compassion instead of disdain? The messenger's gaze swept across the gathered souls, a tranquil strength emanating from him. To nurture such an environment requires both willingness and resolve. It is cultivated through persistent understanding, patience with one another, and sacred acknowledgement of the weight we each bear. This is not a one-time harvest, it is a lifetime of tilling the soil of your relationships. As the rain continued to murmur its ancient song, Samuel saw fit to add, is this journey not also individual? While we seek accountability as a community, must we also confront our internal storms? Can we bear witness to our own suffering and share that with others, or must we first absolve ourselves of our darkest thoughts? The messenger looked deeper into Samuel's eyes, sensing the true inquiry buried within. Indeed, it begins with self-examination. You cannot offer fruits of healing without first tasting grace upon your own tongue. The path is personal and profound. As you acknowledge your own struggles, you illuminate the vulnerability that binds you to others. The ground trembled slightly beneath their feet, as though affirming the wisdom shared. The townspeople felt the weight of his words settle upon them, a heaviness that demanded reflection. Leah mused, are we ultimately responsible for how we interpret and react to each other's truths? Do our fears shape the lens through which we see others, and can we perhaps choose to alter that lens? Each individual impacts the other, the messenger asserted. In the exploration of accountability, you find the grace to step into each other's shadows and embrace the light hidden within. The journey entwines as you learn one from another. However, it remains essential that you honor both the pain and the beauty that reside within. A moment of silence enfolded the crowd once more as realization began to ripple through them. There was something sacred in sharing both joy and sorrow, they understood. It stirred a movement that seemed to weave through the air, linking their spirits, but just as hope flickered bright, another thunderclap rolled overhead, reminding them that the storm was far from over. Will you, the messenger proclaimed, dare to explore the depth of your truths together? Will you face this tempest with unwavering courage, or will you welcome the shadows as uninvited guests? Miriam stared into the darkened sky, feeling the weight of the question echo within her. Can the beauty of our shared journey toward accountability outweigh the storm of our hidden fears? Will we allow the light of our truths to forge connections or let the thunder drown out the whispers of our hearts? As the tempest continued to rage, the tension in the air thickened, coaxing deeper inquiries from the hearts gathered under the shelter of their fears and hopes. The struggle to confront their vulnerabilities had birthed a subtle shifting among them, a collective longing to emerge transformed. In the eye of the storm, Eli turned his gaze from the churning clouds above to the faces surrounding him. Is there courage found not just in confronting our fears, he pondered aloud, but in recognizing the possibility that truth, once spoken, might lead to profound transformations? Can our collective voices reshape the narrative of our existence? The messenger nodded thoughtfully, an expression of understanding etching his ancient features. Courage lays at the crossroads of vulnerability and revelation. When you allow your truths to flow freely, they hold the capacity to shatter old patterns and illuminate unseen pathways. Yet, you must prepare yourselves for each truth to carry its own weight. Transformation is not without cost. Ruth, who braved the voice of skepticism, questioned, but what if the cost is too great? What if the truths we uncover drive a wedge between us instead of uniting us? Can we withstand such potential division? The messenger regarded her with a gentle smile. The journey towards unity is often laden with trials. Yet, like the storm that cleanses, it may surface conflict that exists beneath the facade of calm. Do not fear the division, rather, embrace the discomfort as the catalyst for healing. It is through the process of engagement that bridges are built, allowing growth where once there was stagnation. As the rain danced upon the earth, Leah felt a stirring in her spirit. In seeking connection, is it not essential to acknowledge the burden we carry as individuals? Can we truly embrace each other's truths without first surrendering our own shadows? Indeed, the messenger replied softly, the shadows are your companions in this pursuit. Acknowledge them, do not push them aside in the name of forgiveness. For in their presence lies the understanding of your shared humanity. When you make room for your own darkness, you open the door to accompany others in theirs. Amidst the contemplation, Samuel observed the clouds swirling overhead. If we are called to face our truths, what then becomes of our shared future? With every storm past, do we not grow accustomed to the winds? Can we truly cultivate a safe space to explore our vulnerabilities, or will the storm merely serve as a harbinger of more to come? The messenger's eyes flickered with a knowing light. Every storm you weather is indeed a preparatory chapter for the ones ahead. Your willingness to engage with honesty today lays the foundation for future storms. The winds of change can either buffet your sails or guide you towards unknown shores. It is your choice, the collective choice that shapes the destiny that lies ahead. As silence enveloped the group, Miriam embraced the surging thoughts within her, turning towards the horizon where dark clouds loomed. Are we, then, she ventured, facing not only the tempest within ourselves but the weight of our destiny as a community? Can we gather the strength to speak our truths, knowing they may echo long after this storm passes? The messenger's answer lingered in the air, an invitation entwined with uncertainty. The echoes of your truths will chart the course for those who come after. Will you dare to embrace the fear of what lies ahead, knowing that each act of courage can write a new tale of hope? In this tempest, will you cast your light into the shadows, trusting it will guide others through the night? As the raindrops continued to fall, they ignited a yearning sensation within each heart present. Together, they stood on the precipice of revelation, waiting silently to discover if they had the courage to unveil themselves, or if they would allow the storm to hide them once more. Would their collective journey toward understanding forge new pathways, or would the echoes of their fears haunt them into silence? As the rain drummed a steady rhythm upon the earth, illuminating the town of Jerusalem in a soft glow, the people stood together in a mixture of trepidation and hope. Each heart hummed with the tremors of vulnerability, yet a flicker of resolve ignited within them. They now understood that this night was not merely about the coming storm, it was about their unearthing, their awakening. The messenger's presence felt electric, and with each heartbeat, the truths they had harbored began to ripple through the crowd, an unspoken current binding them as one. Amos stepped forward, his voice steady yet filled with emotion. If we are to embrace this transformation, we must do so together, shoulder to shoulder. Our burdens won't disappear, but with each other's strength, we might carry them further into the light. His words triggered a collective stirring within the assembly. It was time to dismantle their walls and let the floodgates of honesty open wide. Eli stepped forth, bolstered by Amos's courage. I have long hidden behind the facade of wisdom, yet I fear that my own ignorance lurked underneath. Each time I hesitated to share my own struggles, I inadvertently stifled the voices around me. Let me be among the first to speak my truth. I question what I believed I knew. I acknowledge my inadequacies, and tonight, I lay bare my doubts. A soft gasp flowed through the assembly, marking the significance of such honesty. Ella's confession rippled outward, inspiring others to step into the light of their own truths. Leah, emboldened by his vulnerability, added, "I can relate. My pride has often masked deeper fears, and in masking them, I lost touch with those I love." The murmurs around her echoed with affirmations and confessions, each honesty weaving a further connection, a deeper unity. As the shared truths unfolded like the petals of a flower blossoming in the rain, Miriam sensed the tension begin to dissolve. "We are not defined by our missteps," she declared, "but rather by our willingness to accept and grow from them. Let us showcase the grace we've been offered by our Creator and extend it to one another." A wave of agreement coursed through the crowd, igniting embers of newfound freedom and vulnerability. The messenger observed them with gentle approval, seeing the collective transformation taking root. Such courage invites the light to shine through your shadows. With every revelation, you create space not only for healing but for the magic of forgiveness to blossom, he encouraged. Remember, to forgive is not to forget, it is acknowledging the hurt, accepting the humanity of each participant while letting go of the chains that bind. As the echoes of his wisdom washed over them, the storm within the hearts of the people began to demonstrate its purpose. The deepening bonds between them grounded them even as the waters rose around them, and each drop of rain that fell became symbolic of release from fear, from bitterness, from the grips of shame. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning illuminated the sky as if the heavens themselves were affirming their newfound resolve. Gathering strength, each individual spoke their truth, one after another, revealing fragments of a shared story that had lingered in silence for too long. I felt abandoned, a voice trembled from the back. I feared I would be seen as weak, unworthy of love. Another added, I carried the burden of jealousy when I should have embraced gratitude for what I have. Each admission created a tapestry of human experience, a reflection of their interconnectedness. The messenger nodded, acknowledging their metamorphosis, yet he raised a hand to temper the growing intensity. Do not let the rawness of your confessions overwhelm you. Remember, in facing your darkness, you illuminate the way for others. Healing is not linear, it is a winding path with both joy and sorrow. As the storm subdued into a gentle shower, the crowd stood in a tranquil acceptance of their collective journey. They had shed their fear in exchange for grace. Together, they crafted a promise, a resolve that rang out like a ringing bell. They would honor one another's truths, instilling a culture of compassion that would forever cultivate their community. In that sacred moment, the messenger offered one final exhortation: let this night be the foundation upon which you build a sanctuary of forgiveness and love. Hold steadfast to these promises when tomorrow dawns. In your vulnerabilities lies the power to rise above. Grace abounds. As dawn began to break, spilling golden rays across the damp earth, the townsfolk stood enlightened, transformed. No longer shackled by shame, they were emboldened to embrace the unknown, to move forward as a unified body that would reignite their faith, not just in each other, but also in their Creator. It was not merely the end of a dark night but the prologue to a paradigm shift. The air felt lighter, charged with the potential for renewal as hope donned its garments. They rejoiced in their shared journey, shadows now brushed away, revealing deeper colors in their lived tapestry, and as they began to walk home, hearts unburdened, a simple understanding dawned upon them, that the pursuit of honesty and the act of embracing vulnerability had, indeed, stripped away their fears and birthed within them the very essence of divine love. In each step forward, they painted new paths for future generations, an eternal message embedded within the fabric of their transformed spirits. In the echoes of that mystical night, their voices woven into the universality of humanity, they ventured into a world forever changed, reverberating the unshakable truth that the light triumphs even amidst the storm. Thus, it was revealed, love, vulnerability, and community are the ultimate tools for healing, and in their embrace lay the promise of eternal grace.